Hello everybody and welcome to another Creative Corner. I hope you've had a fantastic month. We certainly have. The weather is turning and it's now starting to become summer. So I hope that your summer is turning out to be awesome. So I'd like to dive straight in. We are live, so that means if you've got any questions or comments, you can feed it through on our chat and we will answer as we go. If there are any technical issues, please also let us know in the chat, because obviously this is live and things happen. So if you can let us know if you're hearing us and if you're seeing us, that would be fantastic. Also, let us know where in the world you were joining us from today. So we are based in sunny Portugal, and as it is turning into summer, we have lots and lots of colour starting to happen in our fields. And I thought today I might talk to you a little bit about colour. Colour in a theoretical basis, there are lots and lots of textbooks out there, and there are lots of examples to show you how you can colour select on a colour wheel. And using a colour wheel, by the way, is a great way of perhaps selecting your props, or even after you've taken your photograph, helping you color grade. But that isn't really where I'm going to go today. If you want more information about that, let me know. Perhaps there'll be other videos that we do on that. But today I'm really focusing more along the lines of the perception of color and what happens when you put colors together. And again, I'm going to show you some of the reference materials, because as always, you know, there are a ton of people who've been there, done it, and have done it far better than we are ever likely to do in our lifetimes. And I am, of course, talking about the great painters. I think Philippe was going to show you a reference material that I'm using this week, or that I've been looking at. One of them is from John Brett. And this painting, and in particular what I'm looking at here, is the way that the colours and the colour palettes from the foreground to the background work. So whilst we're on foreground and background, I will explain a little bit about what I mean by foreground and background. So if we come back to our set, and I will just show you very simply in terms of perhaps some props that I have here. So I've got two cups. I'll just place them on my set. The big cup is what we normally call the middle ground. So that is generally where your focus may be. But obviously that's not a rule that is set in stone. It is just something that perhaps most seem to apply to still life photography. So this is the middle ground of your image, and then anything to the front of that will be the foreground. And if you think about it in terms of depth of field, if you set your depth of field to be a very narrow depth of field, say 2.8, and it was this narrow band here, you would understand then nothing in the foreground would be in focus and nothing in the background would be in focus. So let me just put something very quickly in the background. What can I grab just to demonstrate this? Let me just grab some big dried flowers in the background here. So this and anything in the vase then in the back would be your background. So you would then understand that anything in this little jar would be your foreground, middle ground, and then your background. So that's just a quick explanation of the terminology that I was using there. If we go back to the painting, you can see, so in the John Brett painting, if Philippe can bring that up, you can see that in the foreground he has some very saturated colours. There's yellow, there's even a pop of little orange there, both on the boats and also on the cliffs. And as he moves to the middle ground, which would be our middle glass in the still life set that's on the background here right now, in the painting he has a little bit less saturated colors, and he has used the yellows and the greens. So he's not put any of the oranges in that middle ground. And then as he moves to the background, which is towards the sky, he's made those last mountains kind of match the color of the sky. And it's a trick that most painters use. You'll see it again and again, and especially in landscape, it's very easy to understand why. When you are looking at a landscape, you see the landscape, especially if there are mountains off in the distance, you will see them kind of matching the sky. And there are almost times where if it's a big mountain range and the sky is perhaps cloudy or overcast, there are often times where you aren't able to see the top of those mountains for the sky. They're kind of blurred into each other. And that's also what the painters of old recognized, and they used the way that they use colors of the desaturation and the muted tones in the background. So it's a real technique that they used to use in painting. If we jump to the second portrait that we're going to show with the scenery of Grand Tetons. By the way, if you are looking for these paintings, you can easily find them on Google Arts and Culture. It's a wonderful app that you can go into, and all sorts of amazing galleries and exhibitions and painters and wonderful artists that perhaps you weren't aware of can be accessible to view online. It's a great app. So in this painting, again, you can see that the real saturated colours of the green are in the foreground. So they are the closest to you. And then you have this middle section where it's light, but it's not as saturated as the foreground. So you still have some bright colours. And particularly in this image, they've chosen to highlight the middle ground with light and brightness and bringing that area out to the viewer. And then as you travel into the mountain range, again, the mountain range kind of disappears into the sky. It becomes this time a bit darker and a little bit, again, desaturated but darker and pushing it into the background. So these two painters have used the same technique of foreground, middle ground, background, but they've used the colours in a different way. In the first one with John Brett, he used it in a light way and the background was light, so you could see this desaturation and lightness, whereas in Albert Berstadt's image, you see the background getting darker and more foreboding, if you like, in the background. But they use the same as the desaturation and blending the colours of the background in together. And these are some of the techniques that I'm going to try and replicate today in our still life. So again, I'm using reference materials of these artists, but the specific things in mind that I'm going to try and take and put into my still life. So in order to come into today, I have selected a couple of colours. So let me just take these off my set. Firstly, and most importantly, really is the background colours. Now, in terms of my background today, I have a dark colour, so that will immediately tell you that my thinking and my decision to make the background blend going darker has already been made. Otherwise, I would perhaps have changed this into a much lighter background where the lightness of the background gets blended together. So this is going to be perhaps disappearing into a darker field, which is kind of my preferred aesthetic. I do like darker images, and I'm aware that I choose darker backgrounds to this end. If you are wondering about this background, we do have a video online as to how to make this background. Believe it or not, it is made with aluminium foil, on a piece of board. I think if I just turn that around there, you're going to see that's pretty much the board is just a normal piece of cardboard that you can buy in any art supply store, and it's covered in aluminium foil, which is then glued on and then coated in gesso and painted. So there is a video online on our YouTube channel as to how to make that. It's a little bit worn these days because it is quite old, and it's a go-to backdrop for me. So if you're wondering how long aluminium foil backgrounds last, quite some years actually. I can't remember when that video was made, but it's done pretty well. Okay. Okay, so I think hello. It's good to see you. Thank you for coming along. Philippe was just telling me that you had some sound issues, so I hope those have been resolved. I think Philippe has just resolved them, so thank you for letting us know. So I'm going to start putting some colours in here, or just to show you what could be brought in. So firstly, I have, of course, a beautiful rose. Now, I'm going to just show a couple of things at the same time. So first is my rose. And of course I chose pink because I knew the background that I was going to be doing with is like this beautiful dark purpley ombre kind of shade. So I knew that if I put a pink rose in front of it, it immediately feels brightened by that. Knowing that if this was going to be my middle ground, I would then want a background and a foreground colour to go in it. And that's kind of then what dictates the decisions of the flowers that I'm going to pick up. So if I was going to say, blend in my background, which I kind of do want to, I have picked these lovely darker purple colours because I knew that they would very much go with the background there, and I could probably put them around my beautiful rose, and that would instantly make a great pairing. Now I'm just going to put those there because these are just for examples to show you what I picked up. Bearing in mind that I do kind of think that sometimes the flowers themselves also dictate the props, but I'll come to that in just a second, because a foreground colour that I've picked up, remember how the artists used green in the foreground? Well, I too picked up some green, but I picked up a light green. This is more teal really, but I picked it up knowing that it could be a foreground and it could be a much brighter foreground, so that you're going from bright, mid-tone to really dark, and that would really guide your eye in. See there? It's just about colour choices as to where I might place them in my images. And the fact is that this leaf has two tones on it. On the inside you have a dark green, and on the outside is a really light green. So I could place this leaf in the middle as well as the front, so that it would kind of tie the image in together quite nicely. So this was some of the choices that I was thinking about and making in my flower choices. So let me just set that onto live view again. I'm going to take them offset again. And whilst I talk about props for the images, for the flowers in particular. Now, certain flowers have certain personalities. I think it very much depends on the flowers that you're picking up, and they'll kind of give you a certain vibe, if you like. Obviously, a rose like this in a jar like this is very, very stark. It's very beautiful, but it's kind of a stark beautiful because you have kind of a beauty and a beast thing going on, whereas the rose is the beauty, of course, and then this broken jar below is a bit beastly because it doesn't really fit. It's a bit broken, and it's a bit jarring. I'm sorry, I'll leave the puns out of my jokes today. But really a rose in a glass like this, if I place that there, instantly tells you of elegance. Okay, so I've got a bit of dirt in the background and should clean that up before if I were to carry on with this style. But the props that you select for it change the entire story, like radically change the story. So it isn't just the colors that you're placing, it's also the props that you select for it. And although these props, both of them are glass, so both of them are kind of elegant in their own way, the style of the glass will also speak. And because the flower itself already has a personality, it's trying then to find a story and a personality that aligns with the things that you're putting in your image. I hope that this is making sense, and if you've got questions, please put them in the comments, because obviously I can address them as we go. So this was the one color scheme that I was thinking of, but actually I'm going to show you one more, because of course you don't always need a big well, let me see. If I put this in and change this, you will also see there's a size difference that's going to happen here. Like a peony in a set in a tiny bottle it's like its enormous head. Right, so that's the thing. Again, where the rose played so dominantly, you're going to have a similar effect with something like a peony, because they are big and they command presence. They are almost like Swan Lake in and of themselves. So playing around with something like this, you can use the same colors. Let me just show you, because especially these greens, the teals will go beautifully with them, because again, the teal and the pink is just, it's elegance, all over elegance. And I've deliberately chosen a slate color at the bottom that's kind of matching the blue, matching a teal. So I know that those will go very well. And again, if I were to place the, I've forgotten the name of these, that's because my florist told me in Portuguese and I was never going to remember those names. But this beautiful flower, again, in the background, I knew again it will fade beautifully into the background, leaving the dominance of this lighter pink color in the middle. So the same flowers can be used together again and again, so long as you're mindful of the color sets that they bring and where they may be placed on the set. Now, I could equally reverse that and put that in the background and bring those in the foreground. There's nothing wrong with that. But honestly, because I've chosen a darker background, that scenario is kind of not playing out so well. In order to make this work, I would need a lighter background. And let me just show you that. Whilst my live view might, there we go, I have a background here, which is the other aluminium background. It's very light, so you can see it's not as heavy as having a wooden background or anything like that, so it's very easy to move. So you see something like that may have worked a little bit better because of the colors. So if you were going to swap the color dynamics and have the lights in the background, you really need a lighter background for that. So again, I'm going to keep with my dark backgrounds. I just wanted to give you some examples really of different things, and not just show you with one example, because sometimes when you can see one example works, it's you don't always see how the rules can work again and again and again for you. So I'm going to take those away, and I'm actually going to work with yellow, and I'm going to work with some of these marigolds today. And I tell you what made these decisions for me. Firstly, I knew that the middle of these are very different. They've got a very dark center in them, and the yellow on the outside makes them really intriguing for me. Plus the fact that they aren't elegant. They're not, they kind of feel more everyday, in a down-to-earth kind of flower. So there isn't the elegance of the roses. Although I love elegance and I love shooting elegance, I kind of felt like I needed something a little bit more down-to-earth today. So I wanted a character that was a little bit more down to earth. So I've chosen the yellows, and I will again choose some of the greens, and I picked up, let me show you, picked up, oh, if I can detract them from each other, because they seem to have, there we go, wound each other up together on the set. Okay, so here I've picked up this bush, and because it's got the same purpley bits as the background, I knew that would work well. Again, having some of the green on it as well means that it get exactly the same elements that were in the painting are found in this bush. And I can put this in kind of like a formation where it's not only in the foreground, but it also carries on into the background in kind of like a very dynamic shape. So I'm going to kind of try and work this out so that this is going to be my brightest spot in the image. It's going to be kind of like the center of attention. And then this one is going to be that beautiful kind of gliding and helping us from the foreground into the background image. I could probably work, where are we? These two will definitely work together because of the purple. Oh, I don't know if you can see. So these two will definitely work, but because of the height differences, I'm going to have to work very hard to get them in and to work them all together. So because of the height differences, I found a prop that I think will just work perfectly. So here we go. And because I think this is a down-to-earth flower, I brought a down-to-earth prop onto the set, and it's a tape measure. I found this on a local building site, and because it's rusted and it's broken, I couldn't resist it. I knew it would work, especially because of the colors that I have in the flower. I don't know if you can see that. Let me see if I can bring that into, there we go. So you can see that the colors, the yellows match, the rusty patches match. It's kind of like just a win-win. It kind of just feels like they belong together, really. So I know I can photograph these together. So let me just put this one offset whilst I try and match these up. So I really like how this is going to work for me. I think because if I just put it here in the foreground, it's going to go completely off the set, which isn't necessarily what I want at all. I'm going to see if it will bend. Okay, it will bend. Oh, and of course live view. Just, there we go, back on. So if I bend it in half, and I place this in a dynamic way, actually I'm very excited about this tape measure. It feels like it's a real winner already. You know how you see something and you just get really excited about it because it just feels like everything that you're trying to say in one image is coming already. That's how that tape measure feels to me. So I already like the arc. I think there's a lot of dynamic going on in that. And what I've done by creating it in this way, what I'm hoping is that my beautiful marigolds will now sit in this space that I've just created here, perhaps around the tape measure. So let's see if I can make that happen. So I have my marigolds here, and I could put them just on one side, but I think that would be quite boring. I think what I'm going to do is try and have them so that they are kind of dotted around them, like it's climbing with the tape measure. Let me just see if I can. So I might need some little gluey things and tools to help me in just a second. Let me see what's needed first. Okay, so I suspect that I'm going to want them more angled towards the camera as they go. So let me see if sometimes I can prop them inside the tree that's there, but you see, if I do that, then I'm not going to get the angle into the because I want to see inside that. So if I leave it like that poked up, I don't see the head. So I might either have to break the head so that the head falls forward, or I angle it in by perhaps what do I have back here that can help with that? I have some florist foam that I can recycle. I've been recycling this piece for a long time, so it's got quite a few holes in it, but perhaps it might work if I just place it back here. And they are this might take a bit of fiddling, so I don't want to take up a lot of time fiddling today. I'm aware that I do a lot of fiddling. So what I'm going to do is arrange some of these, and perhaps even arrange some back here as well, so that some of the leaves come out, and I can, well, I see today is going to be a day where they all want to fall over and nothing wants to stay. That's going to be all right, because it's just, okay, so I will, of course, say that picking things up that are rusty from building sites and things like that, please make sure that you are always careful doing that. It's not the ideal situation, and also, of course, you don't want to be breaking it and making sure that you're as safe as you can be with it. Okay, so let me just put that back onto live view. Okay, so I am going to put these in here. Okay. Oh, no, it really doesn't want to stay. Okay, there we go. So Next thing I was trying was a little bit of florist foam behind here, and okay, I will probably have to break the head so that it's a little bit forwards. Okay, and even, oh, let's just cut this out a little bit. Now, I can see that I have on the left side where the background meets the stone. I'm not sure I want that, so I'm going to have to decide whether or not how I'm going to cover that up, or if I'm going to cover that up. So I have some moss, so I might use some moss. Let me just that was an arc, and then it moved. Okay, so kind of like how this is kind of working here. That's really pretty. This back one here isn't working, but we will make it work. There we go. So at the moment, we've kind of we've lost the foreground a little bit, so we'll just move that round. So over here, I will want a piece of moss. So let me just take this piece here, and I will just place it back here and see if that works. Okay, so that's just blending the background layer in. The other thing I said I was going to try was to bring in those beautiful purple flowers. Now, I'm not sure if I can really make that work in this setting because of where the height difference is. I might have to just, let me just cut this down to size. Okay, so just trying to work that's quite a nice way of having it poke around the sides. If I can just have it rest on top, but also so I'm looking at the image and I'm looking to see not only that it rests on top, but also this one here comes out well, and so far it's not. So I'm just going to cut it off so that I can place it where I want it, because the top ones are working well. So there's those ones that are shooting out to the side, which are really pretty, and I think I can probably put one of those in the middle ground. Oh no, not there. I think it would need to be, let's see if we can, I'm trying to push it into the tree so that it gets a bit of height. It's not quite getting the height I want it to. Oop, there we go. So we'll work on that in a minute if I need to. There we go. Okay, so it's really trying to see what will work. And because these are the same round shape as our marigolds, I know that that's going to work quite well in the background. So we'll keep working with that. I'm going to pop that into water because I think that that was a little bit droopy. So let's pop that into water. I'm looking also to see what other things I've got that will help us out perhaps in the foreground a little bit here. And I am wondering whether or not these, we might have some wisps of grass in the front as well. That might work, so that we've really got some foreground, middle ground and background. So I'm keeping my kind of just playing and seeing what will work and what might look really good. In the meantime, let me see if I can build up some more marigolds in the middle, so that we've got a lovely kind of oh, they smell amazing. I wish you could smell these. Okay, so we're going to see about perhaps putting another couple in, and of course one this side. Oh, oh, this tape measure. You were supposed to stay, my friend. So let me just see if I can push it under the slate. Okay, let me just move that out of the way so that hopefully you can see how I'm creating these in the back, because there's some of the shapes in the background are, oh, there we go. Right, this one had fallen down. So let's put you back. I am aware that I play Jenga quite a lot with my flowers, and that does mean that often in playing, in arranging them in this way, they often fall over or I have to reset, and that's okay. It's because I don't use, I don't tend to use a lot of floral foam in my sets. The ones that I use, it's because I already had them and it's for recycles. And a lot of the frogs that you can buy, the florist frogs, they really often don't fit in the sets that I'm building up. And I actually can't seem to get florist frogs here that I really want, you know, the really small ones that would sit on sets that would... Portugal isn't... Oh, no. Okay, so give me a moment. This has all fallen over. If you've got questions, please pop them in the comments. It might be a good time for questions right now, whilst I rebuild the set and try and put this back together. Oh, okay, so that's not going to do what I wanted it to do. So how am I going to make this? I think a little bit of sellotape, double-sided sellotape might help at this point. So I also have, so I'm going to put some double-sided sellotape onto this side of things, but I also don't want that to be flicking up again. So I'm going to put that into a piece of cork. So that's what it's all about, problem solving and working the problems as they come up, because they're bound to come up. That's what photography is. So I have some cork, and I'm just going to use a tiny bit of the cork and see if I can put that inside that so that it doesn't fly open like that again. And I will stick the cork onto the background. So again, any questions, please let me know. I'm aware that there's a bit of faffing involved in today, so I'm conscious that that might not be so interesting to watch. So let's let me cut a little slot into the cork for the tape measure to go into. So I've just cut with a knife a little slot. Hopefully that will, there we go, just rest inside the cork, and then I can glue the cork onto the set, which is a bit of a long-winded roundabout, but sometimes that's what it takes. So I'm not convinced it's going to stay, but we'll give it a whirl and see. Okay, so great, let's push it on, see how it does. In the meantime, we had, you were resting on here, thank you. Oh, well, you were resting on there, so what happened? Did the background move? Yep, okay. You needed to come a bit close, okay, so we had that resting on there, and then we have, let me just cut this back so that I can shape all my marigolds around. So now the marigolds that, oh, there we go, okay, and you will need a bit of repropping, that's okay. Oh, okay, so that florist foam fell apart. Let's try. Let's try another bit. You know, some days it doesn't come easy. That makes it even more beautiful when it does come together. And also you get to see live how this works, because it really is a case of, you know, try it, see it, move it around. And a lot of it will be about really maneuvering things on set in a way that, you know, you can make it work. And sometimes that requires a lot of sticky tape. Other times it just requires a little bit. And all the tools that I'm using are literally the tools that I use on every single still life. Let me just soak another bit of foam so that it's a little bit bigger and heavier. When I soak it, it stays a little bit heavier on set, so it's easier sometimes to, there we go, to prop up. The thing is that you know, photography is about perseverance. In one way, shape or other, it really is. It's perseverance on not just creating the image, but also, you know, keeping going, keeping creative, keeping momentum going in your own work. It's a little bit of grit, and that's what this is demonstrating today. It's not always super easy to get exactly what you want, and that's also okay. We will continue to style it until it comes the way I want it to. And this is where the faff comes in, sadly. Although, you know, it seems like it's a lot of faff, and it is. There is a lot of, in styling things, you are working things, and you are working things again and again to get them to the best that they can be or that they can look. And sometimes that comes incredibly easy. You know, I think sometimes photographers also think that if it hasn't come with a struggle, it isn't great. If an image has taken you 3 seconds to make and it's a really fantastic image, it's a fantastic image. It doesn't really matter the length of time it has taken to create it. If an image has taken, you know, several hours to make and it's a good image, it's still a good image. It doesn't, time making an image is not relevant in what the actual final outcome of the image is. It could be equally that you spend hours making an image and it's just rubbish. That also happens, and that's what it is. And you have to also recognize those times. But don't be afraid of that. That's, you know, this is just, it's practice. It's what it is. You just keep building, you keep practicing, you keep making something else. And this, you know, you're getting to see this live. This is a live stream, so you get to see that sometimes it's not super quick. Other times it is, but not always. So we are, I would say, I'm at a place where I kind of really, I like where it's headed now. Let me just put another one or two here. I like how the marigolds are now bunched up together in very much the way that they were naturally, but they've been styled around in a way that is really good. I do also want one in the background so that we can match, when I say just here, so that it kind of ties things in. Just cut off the, so I'm not sure if that will stay back there. It might need some propping up, perhaps with a, again, with a cork. Corks are great for flowers because they've already got a little hole that you've probably used a corkscrew on. Just putting one stem inside is super good. And I'm just gonna poke that stem through. Oop. So this is why drinking bottles of wine with cork rather than plastic. Corks work so much better. Okay. There we go. And that just gives that a lovely depth. I'm actually really enjoying where that is right now. It's kind of come together in kind of a nicer way. What I might do is just, I see this has just covered it a little bit, so I might just pop that down there. and it's still not doing what I'm going to want it to do. So I'm going to cut it back here, and I'm going to trim it and then put it back in the place I actually wanted it to be. There we go. Just under there, and then if that wants to live, nope, that doesn't want to live there because I can see the cut of that I just made, so I'm just going to cut it a little bit more and put that back here. Okay, so far I am actually really enjoying how that's built up. I'm wondering if it needs another one down here or not, or whether that's just, it needs it more kind of on the floor level, not necessarily, so more like here, and perhaps with a little leaf attached to it, so that it's more kind of balanced, it's not on its own. And I'm going to, how am I going to do that? I'm going to pin it. So I folded the leaf over, and I'm just going to pin the stalk and the leaf. Oop, and that together. So there, I've literally made a little stem with a leaf over it, and then I will put that into the image here. I don't like when flour rests directly onto the floor. It's like it squishes the flour up. I really want it to rest, so I'm going to need to cheat that, and I will cheat that by, I actually have either another leaf or a stalk. I might have, yes, I have a rose stalk here that is a bit thicker than the other stalk of the actual marigold. So I'm going to use that and just cut a little bit off the stalk and use the stalk itself to help, hopefully, just prop up the flower head so that it doesn't look as if it's resting on the floor itself. Let me just... There we go. And I will probably, to disguise that, I will probably use a tiny flower or a tiny leaf just at the base of it, just to kind of, not just to, to hide the stem, but also to give the leaf a little bit of, oh, everything's falling over today. Okay. I kind of have a joke that when everything is falling over, or when I've got a set that continues to fall over, I'm kind of almost done, because I've already then I breathed on it and it fell over. So I'm going to use another pin to pin that flower in. Thing is, I get more determined when things fall over. I get more determined that it is actually going to do what I say it's going to do. So let me pin the flower to the stem, right, and then put it back in its place. Oh, okay. So you belong there. Thank you. Probably a little bit closer in, actually. Where were you? You were about... trying to get it into the right place now. Okay. So I am aware that this is, I will leave this and I will move on if it doesn't stay in place. But just so you all know, I've not given up. I will I will come back and faff with that later, because I won't like it if it doesn't stay in where I want it to go. That's more or less where I wanted it to be, actually, so we're not too far off. Okay, so I kind of like where we're driving that. That's really nice. Let me just see if I need some of these beautiful purple flowers also to make an appearance in the foreground to help satisfy that linkage from the background to the foreground. So if they were perhaps also in here, that's kind of what let me just take some of the heads off. And yes, these are just amazing because they go with everything. Especially in this set, they really do bring the magic, which is yeah, I really like that. So I'm going to see if it will stay if I put it in here. It almost, okay, so that's good. And I'm also wondering, does it need to make an appearance in here and in there? So let me just first make that go in there. I'm not sure if it needs to, but I think it does. Yes, but again, don't want it to be on top of the marigold. So let's just see if I can bring it in. Nope. I just felt the stem break a little bit, so it needed a firmer stem to press into the side of the foam. There we go. And the little leaf here. So that's looking relatively nice. I still have a little bit of a hole there, which I'm not enjoying. So I'll have a look out for what to fill the hole with, but I also want another little purple flower for the other side. So let me just grab something. Oh, let's take a head off that one. Okay, so I just want something in here again, just to match the purples that are going on and bring it into the background more. Again, trying not to let it sit on top of anything. There we go. Okay, so this also, I really just want them to turn in a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so on the whole, I am actually really liking how that is shaping up and shaping into it. I might see about just moving the camera just round slightly. There we go. So let me just put the focus onto the tape measure. Okay, there we go. So, what do we all think so far? I'm wondering whether or not this moss is working or not, so I'm going to take it out for a second and I'm going to put in the tree that I had cut before. And even if, oh, that fell over there. I'm just trying to work out if I raise that a little bit. Oh, and by doing so, of course, I messed everything up. Okay, but that's okay. Before I put things back in, I will just prop that up just slightly. I will then bend this over gently. Please bend over now. Oh, this has been a set, right? Okay, now let's prop things back in. Hopefully you will all go back in the way I had intended. I can see that this one's already fallen out. Okay, and you fell over. Why did you fall over? Oh, okay, there we go. Are you back in? Yes. Okay. And this one definitely slipped down. Okay. We will just put you back in. So, we'll perhaps take this out. I'm kind of wondering whether or not there are, because there's a lot of green this side, whether or not there needs to be a bit of green that side, or whether or not I just move the camera around. Just, oh, let me find out what happened there. If I move the camera round to this angle more, so it's got more of that lovely arch going on. What happened here? Oh, you tried to slip out of the slate. Okay. You can go back now. Okay. So I'm wondering whether or not... Oh, yeah. It's definitely a Jenga stake now, so I don't want to fiddle too much now with what we've done. I probably will... Oh. Yeah, I will probably fiddle with that more in my own time, but just so you know that I'm kind of... Oh, can you see that? That was where the tape was stuck and then decided to stop. So... Oh, let me just see if I can leave it there. Okay. Okay, so I definitely see like far more green this side than that side, so I will try and probably balance that out. I could do that. Let me have a look to see how we could do that, because we have... these are probably more, because they're so bright, they definitely could go in the foreground, and I'm not sure if they could go in the background because of my original selections of trying to make them go darker into the background. It's really not necessarily the light choice of going back. But the other thing is, right now if I put something light over there, so over here perhaps, it might actually bring out the foreground a little bit more, especially because this is similar to the background colour. So before, if I put these colours directly on the background, they kind of meld into each other as they are right now. If I wanted to bring them out, it would be very easy by just popping a bit of light colour just behind all of that, and that would bring that out. So there's that possibility. What else do I have? I have some really beautiful fluffy, which you normally see in the field, but the problem is I only have one, and so one really isn't enough for this image. It would need to be a few in a row. Another idea, I actually have some leaves from, and let me just see if I can cut them down. So I'm going to see if they're the right green or if they are too vibrant. You see, they might be too vibrant, and they would probably need to live somewhere inside the image so to match them into the background. So that's possibly not. So the other way, my, no. I don't want to mess but you see that into the background. Again, it would highlight it, but it's not really the right sort of tone. I definitely think we need something darker in that background. Okay. The other thing I have actually is these. Those might work beautifully. Let me see if I can cut them down. Firstly, I have some beautiful red stems, and these red stems are really pretty. They've dried now in a way that are really very pretty, and because they're the similar colour to the background, I know that they would work. Let me just kind of pop a little bit of dark into the corner there. I'm just popping that underneath there. But I also have these, and I'm kind of liking those, perhaps even as a but you see, this makes the image this side particularly heavy on this side. So I'm not sure whether or not we need anything back here. So yes, finally the purple flower is actually standing where it needed to, right? Let's not complain about that until the image is actually taken, because we never know if it's going to stay that way. Okay, I've got some of these, but I've got also a few of those reds, and I know the reds will definitely blend in. Whereas, yeah, I'm not sure they will work in this particular set because they're so tall. It's not the colour, it's the tallness of those. They might not necessarily work, but then saying that, I have reds that are tall. Let's see if I can chop them in and kind of make them into our, let me just put them, you know, that's not bad at all. And the reason why is because, of course, you've got the tallness of the tape measure, and the tallness of the tape measure is pretty much similar kind of width as these reds that are now blending into the background. Oh, there we go. See, that's, please, please, please stay still. You were perfect. We had all decided that was a perfect place for you. Oh dear. Well, yeah. Jenga for you. That's what happens on my sets. Let's put these in. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think you might be right, one. I might be adding too much in here. And the thing is that I kind of do have the option of using lighting to help me as well. So if I just completely made the background and this area really, really dark and going off into darkness, I think you might be right. I think I might get away with it. But there's always that, I'm not sure if it's balanced right. So I'm going to just, I would probably fiddle to see, or to make sure with that. Let me just show you, like because the way I have the light right now, let me just see if it's at 100%. Let me just turn it up, which might mean your images on screen go a little bit funny, but just bear with me whilst yeah, there's a lot of front light and a lot of fill light, so we'll see how this, oh, and of course, just as I clicked that, I saw that, saw it rock around. See, it's really, really dark. And the thing is that I don't dislike dark images. They are aesthetically my go-to, but I am going to drop my depth of field down, because if I'm not seeing much of the background, I'm going to drop it down, and I am going to also change my shutter speed there. Let's just see what that does a little bit. Again, because of this, I'm probably making, yeah, see, I think this definitely isn't working now. I thought it might do, but it's not. So let me take those away. The thing is that adding things in and taking them away, it's kind of how we work to make, you know, see, firstly, to make sure what we've got is right, but also to bring up be open to the aesthetics of pleasant surprises. So when things kind of catch you in that way of, oh, I didn't expect that, or that happened and that was really nice. Yeah, there is something, I don't know, dark and moody perhaps about image. You know what else I'm going to do though? I am going to spray the background, just the slate, just to get it a little bit wet, because it does change the colour. It darkens the colour into a deeper green, and also just gonna spray those. Hi everybody joining. Please feel free to drop questions, comments. We are live, so what you're seeing is being built live. You know what, I think that we are almost there. I don't think that that this is terribly far off now. I'm a little bit more, I kind of feel like that back left corner is bothering me more, and I'm not sure whether or not even if I have, even if it's something like this, it may help fill it. I think if I put something from the ground up, it might struggle. But from the top down, it might be something that works better to have like something coming in like that. So that feels a little bit better to me. That feels a little bit more balanced. Even then, because we are coming from the corner down into the bottom, what I might also want to do is add in, you remember me talking about some of these little fluffy white grass seeds. I saw you slip. Yeah, there we go. Definitely, it slipped one. I'm sorry. It's got a life of its own and wants to do what it wants to do at the moment. What I could do is either add some green into that front, before the camera. So there's just a little bit of green just before the lens, or some little grasses here. I think, let me just see which I prefer. I think probably the greens, you know, just because it does have a bit of a colour. So I would probably here enhance the image by perhaps, you know, a little bit of green in the foreground here, and then where were my purples? So yeah, they're like purple, bit of green here, you know, as the painting did, with its greens in the foreground and then the purples in the background. And that will probably be my final image that I will take. In fact, yeah, I'm really happy with that. So I'm going to finish with that image. I'm just double checking my set to see whether or not I can sneak in a butterfly, but I'm really unsure that I need to. And I definitely think the green is better, right? I definitely think, rather than the white, I think it fits, right? It kind of feels like, and because I've wet the set, I'm not sure that I need a butterfly. I think a butterfly might be too much in that. So something just in there, and then this back here. In fact, let me put that on a timer and take the image just to finish up. So yeah, this is going to be me finishing this up, and okay, let me grab my green in one hand. This is where I try and line everything up before the clicker. Okay, so it's on a timer, and I think, oh, I wasn't quite in, but I think you get the point. I will definitely play with that, but you get the point. I think that's where the image will be taken today. So I will leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us. Was there any questions coming in, Philippe? Was there anything else? Okay, I did want to leave you with a final reference. So if you are interested in colour, and particularly colour that isn't so academic, but is more inquiring and will get you to think about colour and question colour and its relativity towards each other and things, there is a book. If Philippe can put it on screen. This book is The Interaction of Colour by Joseph Albers. And this book is really, I love it because it isn't as as other colour books are. It isn't academic in the way it's teaching. It's not teaching you about the profiles or colour or the colour wheels. It's really teaching you to question like how you see colour, and there's a bunch of plates in the back of the book that basically just get you to explore how you see colour and how the colour on the plates work together and the way you are looking at it, because after all we all see colour incredibly different. Like even the colour red, as the introduction to the book says, the colour red, if you say red to a room of people, everybody will think of the colour, but the colour they think of will be incredibly different from person to person, which is fascinating in and of itself. But if you would like to delve into colour more, then this is a really, really lovely starting place. So highly recommend it. Okay, everybody, if you would like to see more of these, or you would like to see something specific, I am doing shorter videos on specific topics. So if there is something specific you would like me to go over, please let me know. And I hope, of course, that you enjoyed this, and it was lovely having you